Hello everyone, and welcome to Behind the Bulletin, the channel where we uncover the stories behind the headlines. Today, we're diving into a truly jaw-dropping and intriguing moment that has taken fans by surprise. Jong Suk and IU have shocked the public after being seen holding hands and exchanging vows in Seoul. A scene that looks straight out of a romantic drama and instantly set social media on fire. What really happened? Was this a symbolic moment? Performance, or something more? Stay with us and let's uncover the full story right now. The night Seoul thought it understood suddenly slipped out of its grasp. What began as an ordinary evening, traffic humming, neon signs blinking, fans scrolling through their phones, turned into something else entirely when a single image began to spread. Two familiar silhouettes, two hands intertwined. A slow walk down what looked unmistakably like an aisle. Jong Suk and IU. Together. Not on a drama set. Not under scripted lights. But in a space that felt intimate, deliberate, and dangerously real. At first, laughed it off. A misunderstanding, surely. A rehearsal. A concept shoot. Yet as more footage surfaced, the laughter faded. Replaced by a growing, uneasy silence. Their expressions were not playful. Their steps were not rushed. And when the word vows began appearing in captions, the internet seemed to collectively hold its breath. Hours earlier, there had been whispers. Unconfirmed sightings near a private venue in Seoul. Security tighter than usual. Invitations that spoke in vague language, carefully avoiding words like event or ceremony. Insiders claimed it was nothing. Just another industry gathering. But those who arrived sensed something different in the air, a tension that pressed against the chest. The kind that comes before something irreversible. When Jong Suk appeared, dressed with a simplicity that stripped away his usual polished image. Heads turned. When IU followed, calm yet visibly emotional. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. The room felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were leaning in to listen. Then came the moment no one had prepared for. Music, soft, almost hesitant, filled the space. Loud enough to command attention, but impossible to ignore. Jong Suk reached out, and IU took his hand without hesitation. The gesture was small, but it landed like a thunderclap. Phones trembled in stunned hands. Some people froze, unsure whether they were witnessing art or reality. They walked together, side by side, eyes forward, expressions unreadable yet heavy with meaning. When they stopped, facing one another, the silence became unbearable. Words were exchanged. Not shouted. Not dramatic, quiet, deliberate, intimate. Vows would later swear. Promises, others insisted. No one could fully agree on what was said, but everyone agreed on how it felt. It felt final. By the time the first clip leaked online, Seoul was already awake again. Fans refreshed their feeds obsessively. Comment sections exploded. Talk turned into disbelief. Disbelief into argument. This can't be real. It's a performance. Wouldn't do this without announcing it. But denial began to crumble as more angles appeared. Witnesses spoke up. More details aligned too perfectly to dismiss. The way IU's voice wavered. The way Jong Suk's hand tightened around hers. The way they stood there, unshielded, daring the world to look away. Theories multiplied. Could erase the image now burned into the public consciousness, two of Korea's most beloved figures, standing together in a moment that felt dangerously close to confession. And then came the aftermath. Silence from their agencies was deafening. No statements. No denials. No clarifications. Every hour without an answer fed the frenzy. Fans oscillated between joy and betrayal. Hope and heartbreak. Some celebrated openly, calling it fate. Calling it beautiful. Others felt blindsided, questioning everything they thought they knew. News outlets scrambled to verify facts, only to find doors closing and phones going unanswered. Industry veterans whispered that something big had shifted. That lines had been crossed that could never be redrawn. This wasn't just about romance. It was about image, expectation, and the fragile contract between stars and the public. As night fell again over Seoul, the shock had not faded, it had deepened. Analysts dissected body language frame by frame. Interviews resurfaced. Words once dismissed now reread with new urgency. If the time comes, IU had once said, I want it to be honest. Jong Suk had spoken of choosing a life, not just a role. Suddenly, Those statements felt less like coincidences and more like breadcrumbs leading to this very moment. Still, questions lingered like ghosts. Was Vows symbolic or real? Was this the beginning of a new chapter or a calculated risk taken too far? No one knew. What everyone did know was that something had irrevocably changed. The night Seoul watched Lee Jong Suk and IU walk hand in hand down that aisle. The boundary between fiction and reality blurred, and the world has been trying to make sense of it ever since. The morning after did not bring clarity, it brought escalation. What had been shock overnight hardened into obsession by dawn. Screens everywhere replayed the same few seconds, Lee Jong Suk turning slightly toward IU. His expression stripped of performance, IU lifting her gaze. Steady but luminous, their hands still joined. Letting go was no longer an option. The world wanted answers, but none came. Agencies remained silent. Friends declined comment. Insiders who usually spoke freely suddenly knew nothing. The absence of explanation felt intentional. And that intention made everything heavier. Speculation split into camps. One insisted it had to be staged, an art project. Cinematic experiment. Something clever and cruel enough to toy with public perception. Another argued the opposite with near religious certainty. This was real, painfully real. And the industry was scrambling because it hadn't been planned, controlled, or approved. The language used online grew sharper. Fake, say it's fake. If it's real, stop hiding. Every post, every frame, every pause in their expressions was dissected until meaning was forced into even the smallest gestures. Then new details surfaced. A guest list. In fragments. A venue known not for performances but for private ceremonies. A timeline that didn't match any known filming schedule. Theory of fiction weakened. And with each weakening argument, emotional stakes rose. Fans who had grown up with IU's music, who had followed Lee Jong Suk's career from one role to the next, felt as though they were standing at the edge of a truth they hadn't been invited to. Some felt privileged to witness it. Felt excluded. Even betrayed. Love, after all, becomes complicated when it unfolds under millions of watching eyes. Industry reactions followed quietly but decisively. And partners paused campaigns. Schedules were under review. Executives asked questions that had no good answers. Because whether the vows were symbolic or legally binding almost didn't matter, the image alone had power. It challenged the carefully managed separation between private life and public persona. It suggested choice over control. And that idea frightened people who had built entire systems on predictability. As days passed, neither Lee Jong Suk nor IU appeared in public. Their absence became its own statement. When IU finally broke the silence, not with an announcement, but with a simple, carefully worded message, it changed nothing and everything at once. She did not confirm. She did not deny. She spoke instead of sincerity. Of moments that cannot be explained without losing their meaning. Jong Suk followed later. Equally restrained. Equally deliberate. No apologies. No justifications. Just an insistence on respect. For some, that was enough. For others, as infuriating. But slowly, something shifted. The noise softened. Arguments dulled. And what remained was the memory of that walk down the aisle in Seoul, a moment that refused to be categorized. Whether it was love, art, something in between. It had done what few events ever managed to do. It forced the world to stop, to argue, to feel. In the end, perhaps the most shocking part was not the hand-holding, nor the vows, nor even the silence that followed. As the realization that two people had chosen to stand together in uncertainty, fully aware of the consequences, had done so anyway. In an industry built on illusion, choice felt almost radical. And long after the headlines faded and the debates quiet down, that image, Lee Jong Suk and IU, hand in hand, walking forward without looking back, will linger. Resolved and unforgettable. In the end, what unfolded in Seoul was more than a shocking headline or a fleeting viral moment. It was a reminder that behind fame, scripts, and expectations are real people making real choices, sometimes quietly, sometimes boldly, sometimes in ways the world is not prepared to understand. Lee Jong Suk and IU's moment was a declaration, a symbol, or something deeply personal. It undeniably left a mark. It challenged assumptions, blurred boundaries, forced the public to confront how easily stories are owned, interpreted, and demanded. Some questions remain unanswered. And perhaps they always will. But perhaps that uncertainty is precisely what gives the moment its power. An unfinished story that continues to echo long after the lights dim. Thank you sincerely for staying with us until the very end. Your time, curiosity, and engagement mean more than you know. Hope this story gave you insight, emotion, deeper perspective beyond the headlines. Don't forget to follow Behind the Bulletin for more in-depth stories, hidden details, and the moments that happen just out of sight. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.